Brilliant. Okay. Right. Brilliant. Okay, both great. And I'm going to make a start now. We're recording. If any other people join, obviously, then that's absolutely fine as we go through. So thank you for attending. And this is actually one of the first talks as part of EHU University's Sustainability Festival, which is running all week. So you'll be able to obviously have a little look online. It's on the homepage of the intranet, all the kind of activities that are happening this week. A variety of obviously community activity stuff going on in the hub, virtual talks, and anybody that's interested in a career in sustainability, we have this session. We've also got a talk happening tomorrow where we're looking at different kind of graduate employers and what they are doing in terms of sustainability. And then we're also as well hosting an employer on Wednesday from Wharton's in Natural Infrastructure Consultancy, who'll be sharing his journey as a career as an ecologist. And then we've also got presence in the hub on Thursday as well, where people can just kind of drop in and ask the careers team any questions that they have at all. So to make a start, basically, what are green careers? So obviously it's a term that's kind of utilised quite often. So it's mainly focused, as you say, around kind of sustainability, ecology, around the environment, but it's also really, really broad as well. So in terms of climate change and other ecological concerns, they're really kind of pressing political issues. So there's a real global push by governments, charities, lots of other organisations to kind of invest in the green economy. So it can be found across a range of employers. So like I know we've got oil and gas companies, for example, have set goals to reduce their carbon footprint or to invest in renewable energy sources. And there's a rapidly developing area of technology called clean technology that relates to sustainability and finding new ways to improve energy efficiency and protect the environment as well. So it's a real growth area, and one that people can actually find really, really rewarding careers within, because obviously it's something that you're kind of passionate about. I've just noticed, Esther, as well, you've asked about if the slides will be circulated. Yes, they will. I'll send them through to you. Absolutely no problem. And we will be recording this as well, as I say, so I will share this with you. No problem at all. Okay, so what degree do you need? Now, this obviously varies dependent on what kind of role you want to go into. So any degree ultimately can lead to a graduate career that will help to protect the environment. Again, depending what kind of role you want to go into. However, some graduate jobs, especially those kind of in the ecological and conservation related areas, will require you to have a specific studied a specific degree subject. So I've put a slide in here kind of covering the following degree subjects that are particularly sought after for graduate environmental jobs. Just to give you a bit of an idea, these are some of the ones that you may see. But even if a job role doesn't require you to have one of the above degrees, these subjects are going to be really beneficial in helping you develop the kind of right technical knowledge that you're going to need for job in the green economy. If you've done an unrelated degree course, you might also be able to get that knowledge through a postgraduate course or through some experience. As I say, it really, really does depend on the role. And also you'll find lots of kind of graduate employers that are kind of sustainable as an organisation, as well as actually working in a particularly sustainability focused role. So that might be something that appeals, and we can cover off later as well. So some ideas to consider, cryptically put in the form of symbols, but this kind of represents, which I'm going to talk through in a little bit more detail. We've got education, we've got environmental, we've got engineering, science and research, and law. So these are just some examples that I'm going to talk through in a little bit more detail for you now. So education, so an example role here is kind of an environmental education officer. So it gives you a bit of an overview here in terms of what that role actually is. It can be quite competitive. So again, that degree in an environmentally related subject and maybe some work experience, which is always beneficial. But potential kind of employees could be charities, local authorities, wildlife trusts, conservation groups, government organisations. And usually an environmental education officer will educate and publicise environmental conservation and sustainability concerns. So you could be involved in preparing kind of materials, reports, resources, and And, I think so in terms of getting that kind of degree, again, in the background in an environmentally related subject would be beneficial, or again, that work experience, which in terms of getting any graduate role is always absolutely, really, really sought after. The other option is to kind of go down the environmental route. So I'm going to talk about a couple of roles. One is kind of an environmental officer first and foremost, and then we'll talk about an environmental manager. So an environmental officer, again, these roles do tend to be relatively competitive. But there are a number of different officer roles, and they tend to involve kind of monitoring the status of the environment, making sure that environmental regulations are followed. And there are lots of different areas as well that you could potentially specialise in. So they could involve developing policies, keeping records, monitoring budgets, working with contractors. So again, that relevant work experience, which we keep coming back to, is really highly beneficial. And obviously that genuine interest in environmental matters is an absolute must, I think, to go into this position. And that passion will come through if you go kind of to apply for any of the roles. Many of the roles accept applications from candidates with any degree. But again, I think roles like energy conservation officers will ask for a degree or a HND in environmental engineering, environmental sciences, surveying, or something similar. And in terms of the types of organisations that hire into these kind of environmental officer roles, you're looking at charities, energy partnerships, environmental agencies, conservation groups, the government again, local authorities. So really kind of worth looking at some of those kind of areas to work into. And there's also some suggested job titles here as well. So again, when you're searching and depending what kind of your passion is in, it's definitely worth kind of taking a look and searching on job boards for those kind of environmental officer roles. So anything that ends in officer as an officer position. Similarly, there's an environmental manager role, which you may be able to enter straight into, especially if you kind of obviously have got a degree background, or it might be something that you want to progress into. Now, an environmental manager works within an organisation to kind of oversee impact on their environment, and to develop kind of strategies, I suppose, in response to this. So you may be aware we have our own kind of sustainability manager here at Edge Hill University. I've also seen as well, I think it's the Very Group, which are based in Speak, South Liverpool. They've been recently recruiting for, I think it's a sustainability or an energy or an environment manager. But you'll see these roles kind of sat within a number of organisations. So the exact details of the role does vary, I think, depending on the type of employer and the environmental that the environmental manager works for. But they will kind of set targets, create strategies. Obviously, they'll look at legislation set by the government as well and make sure that we're following that. Could manage budgets and liaise with regulatory bodies as well. And again, kind of looking at general kind of employers, you're looking at local government, universities, we've mentioned, manufacturing companies, utility companies. So thinking about companies like United Utilities, construction firms. But as I said before as well, looking at your more corporate organisations now, they will tend to start to hire people within this sector. So again, the Very Group I know have advertised recently for, and they're an online retailer, been advertising for somebody to kind of pick up this role. So definitely worth looking quite broadly. And then we look at kind of science and research as well. So looking at science and research, we've got environmental scientists really is the kind of the role that you'd be looking at here. So they tend to study the effects of human action on the environment, as well as developing those new methods to lessen this as well and lessen our impact. So you could be conducting field research, collecting and analysing data, and in terms of, your kind of degree that you're looking at here, a science degree really is a necessity, preferably in environmental science or kind of environmental engineering or biosciences. And depending again on the role, a postgraduate qualification might be necessary to progress further, but that could be something that you do later. Once you've kind of entered into a relevant position with your science-based degree, you could kind of then later, once you're in a role, study at postgraduate level. And if you've got a good employer, they might fund that. Who knows if you're lucky enough to do that. So environmental scientists are hired by, again, quite similar organisations really. So local government, universities, manufacturing companies, but also kind of research institutes, environmental agencies and conservation groups as well. And then we come to look at engineering. So if you think about it, within engineering, this is a massive focus within engineering organisations. So graduates can work for companies kind of in the renewable energy sector, which focus on developing the low cost, low carbon, reliable ways to generate energy. Also be looking at kind of improving existing power generation infrastructure or working on new energy projects like wind farms, nuclear power. So again, some similar kind of employers in terms of utility companies and governments, but also looking at kind of construction firms, automotive manufacturers, energy companies, and again, massive growth here. You'll see also companies like I suppose consultancies as well, so the likes of WSP, SLR, JSA, who employ engineers. You'll find many roles within the green sector within those organisations. And then law is a really interesting one, I think, actually, as well. So obviously the traditional kind of law route would be to obviously get your law degree. And once you've got your law degree, lawyers can specialise in practicing environmental law or energy law, which at the moment are quite niche areas of practice. However, will become a little bit more mainstream, as we kind of, this becomes more of an importance. And we've obviously got, the kind of critical meeting happening today with the Prime Minister. This is going to be something that grows and grows. And, whatever the organisation is, there's going to be more kind of pressure and priority placed on energy, environment and sustainability. So as a lawyer, you would advise on the requirements of the law for the protection of the environment and management of resources. So you would need to have completed a law degree or a law conversion course, after which you'll be able to choose to do a training contract at a firm with an environmental or energy law team within post. So obviously not all law firms have that team within them at the moment. So it's about researching really what kind of law firms would be right for you, and then doing your training position, obviously a training contract within that kind of firm. But again, really one to watch, and I think a really interesting career path to kind of go down. And that's really just a flavour of some of the routes that you could follow, in terms of as a career path. And they've got some kind of really good resources here as well. So in terms of where you find a role in the sector, there are some specific, if you like, green jobs or environmental job boards. So green jobs, environment job. One of the things I always recommend to do as well is kind of just go onto Google, which seems just really broad, but go onto Google. If you type in the word jobs, a little window will open where it actually opens up a kind of job board within itself in Google. But what's great about that is that you can kind of do a really broad search across a number of employers, and you can multi-search as well right across the piece, and you can set up job alerts. So it's just one sometimes just to do quite a broad search within. Now, GradCracker is obviously kind of a graduate focused job board, which kind of will advertise some roles within this sector. Civil service careers, again, because obviously governments are a huge employer, and also as well jobs.ac.uk. So you tend to find university jobs advertised on jobs.ac.uk, so one definitely worth checking out for a university and education. And then obviously United Utilities, so definitely within the Northwest. United Utilities are the utilities company and energy company that you want to kind of have a look at for any roles in this sector. And then looking to find out more. So again, on this slide, there's some professional bodies involved in green or ecological issues. So whether you're looking at kind of biological sciences, conservation, ecology and environment management, I'll leave that up obviously for a couple of minutes just for you to take a look at. But there's some kind of, some really good organisations there for you to see. And as promised, obviously, I will be sharing the slides and the recording afterward as well. So you can take a look at that and just go back through some of the things that we've shared. So I know it's been kind of like quite a small niche group, and it's quite a short punchy session, just to give you a little bit of a flavour. There will be, as I say, kind of more that we're delivering tomorrow. And on Thursday, we've got a hub drop-in stand as well in the hub on Thursday. You can have a look at the times of that. There's no booking required if you want to drop in and ask the careers team anything at all. But what I will do is I will turn my camera on. So if there's anything that you want to ask at all, or you want me to go through at all, either of you in the session, then absolutely feel free to ask that now in the chat, or unmute your mic and absolutely ask the question. It's no problem at all. I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that if you wish. I think, Esther, I can see your typing there, so I'll there. Oh, it's great. Fine. That's, yeah, it's a bit noisy in your office. What advice do you have for people who don't have a qualification in these areas but are interested in green jobs or switching to working in these kind of areas? So what I would probably say is, first and foremost, I would maybe do a little bit of research around what exact role it is that you want to enter into. Because that very much dictates around the path that you would need to take to get there, because it may be that you don't need to requalify. You may not need an alternative qualification. As I say, a number of organisations will actually kind of look at, your experience. One of the things I would say is, though, however, is potentially look at, if you're in an organisation at the moment, what's your current organisation doing in the sustainability and environment sector? And then what I would probably suggest is, firstly, not only speaking to people within that role, but if you're in your current employer, what can you do to get involved and get some practical experience? So if you're in a completely different role at the moment, what can you do within your current employer if they're supportive? Speak about it in your PDR. What can you do to get involved in sustainability, and what can you get experience of that's practical on your CV, so that you've got something to go into another role? So for example, if you're in the university, there's tons that we do here. How can you get really, really involved in it? As I say, and kind of get that practical experience. And from that, then, if you were looking to work within a sustainable focus role, you can have that on your CV. Once you've researched, though, however, what kind of role it is that you want to do, there's a great website we always recommend to kind of undergraduates, which is Prospects, which you may be familiar with already. But you can kind of put in what role it is you're looking for, and it'll kind of tell you what qualifications it is that you would need to go into that position. So sometimes it is a qualification, but I would always say you definitely need the experience. So really think about how you can get that, whether it's in work, which is great with your current employer, or whether it's something in your own time. We also, as well, kind of would massively support, volunteering and things like that. If you've got time to do it around your kind of paid work, and that might be something that you can kind of speak to, a conservation group, or a wildlife trust, or whatever kind of route it is you want to go down. But I think identifying that first of all would be the best thing, and then you can kind of plan, actually, well, what is it I need to enter into that role, or maybe pick a few roles if you're quite open, and then build it out from there. But we can absolutely support you in careers as well, in terms of identifying what that role is if you need to do a bit of career planning. And then once we've kind of built that plan with you, then looking at the kind of routes and steps that you need to take to get yourself in a good position to go for those roles in the future. Sometimes you can make that change quite quickly. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer if you need to kind of get a bit more hands-on practical experience or a qualification. But I would say definitely don't rule it out. Don't feel that it's too hard or too difficult. There will be a way that you can get there. And absolutely what I would suggest as well is, once you've identified whether it's the organisation you want to work in or the role that you want, absolutely utilise a network and speak to people as much as possible. There are great networks here within the university that you can tap into in this sector. And I know that people would really support you in doing that. Or alternatively, you can find your own network through LinkedIn as well. And people in this sector, I think, are really, really open to supporting others because they're really, really passionate about it. So anybody that's interested in moving into that sector, I think you'll find a lot of support. So hopefully that helps, but feel free to give me a bit more detail if you wish as well, and I can try and help. Great, thanks, Esther. Brilliant, lovely. So just give another couple of minutes unless there's anything else. So as I say, it's quite a short, punchy session really, but hopefully maybe just gives you a food for thought. And I think once I've shared the slides and the recording with you as well, it will obviously just give you some initial kind of points to kind of take a look at as well. And just having a look on the job boards, I think sometimes is just a really good way of seeing what roles are out there. You know, and just kind of finding out, you know, what is it that certain organisations do and have on offer. Right, brilliant, lovely. Well, I'll draw that to a close if there's any more questions, and I will stop recording. But thank you so much for attending today. Hope you kind of just found that a bit interesting. It gives you some good resources to move forward on. And obviously we're here in terms of careers as well. If there's anything you know, that you want to speak to us about. We also have as well, I'm going to do a plug because we've also got as well the big recruitment fair, which is taking place on Thursday, the 18th of November. So we do have lots of organisations there, some of which can kind of find roles within this sector. So if you visit, it's ehu.ac.uk/big rec fair, you'll be able to book your place and have a little browse of the employers there as well and see which of them can kind of maybe have roles within this sector that might be appealing. But thank you again so much, and I will share the details with you later on today. Thank you. Bye.